Alright, so this is the second part of the building a scheduler program. In the last video, I talked about your algorithm. Now, if you can put your algorithm in this format, it will make your life so much easier. So much easier. Up to option 3 here, right? These guys here, that's our basic program. The other options, option 4 and 5, well, I mean, there's 4, there's the X, but that's not here. 4 is adding a new schedule. Notice it's very simple to really add a schedule from codes with the codes, but it is because you're taking input from a user, it is complicated. Only because users are going to enter weird stuff. For example, you might ask the user enter the day, and then they give you male or female. So you really have to check. It's okay, you can just accept male or female, but I mean, personally, I'd end up pulling my hair out in the end. Alright. But what I'm saying is that if you can build this out as an algorithm, basically at the end of each of these, it comes back to the welcome. But if you can build it out this way, then it makes your life a little easier. Welcome. I'm going to load the CSV. I did load CSV because I wanted to call it back when after I entered a new schedule. I wanted to reload the CSV and then display what that entry was to the user. I don't even think I'm going to get into 4. I'm going to get in. I'm going to do a little bit of it, but not the way I did it, because unless you really want to learn how to validate user input and assume that the user is just going to do nonsense, then you can stop at that point. Once I get there, I'll let you know that that's where it ends. Okay, so this is my algorithm. Alright, let's put this algorithm into codes. Before I get into main, let us deal with our schedules. So you should have CSV Reader. This was included, this strings, which is pretty good. It basically converts all letters to uppercase or lowercase, and among other things, but I just really used it for the upper and lowercase. Alright, schedule.h. This is where you need to really be good in building this schedule.h, because if you build a really good schedule.h file, then the rest of your program should be easier. Now, I have included these things here, CMath. This is important when we get to calculating the duration. Alright, include CSV Reader. I don't even think I need to include CSV Reader at this point, but that's fine. I'm just going to leave it there for now. Pragma ones, blah blah blah. Using namespace std, that's like normal. IO manip, so that I could use set width. Vector, because I have vectors. Yes, I do have vectors. Alright, so this is my struct here. Remember we said you needed a struct of time. Now what does time include? Time in this CSV file. This is why it's pretty good. What's our time field here? Oh, I don't want it in Excel. Come on. I want it in Notepad. What is our time field? Our time, essentially, if you look at this is our start time. What is it made up of? It is a string because it has this guy. But if you separate the hour, you separate the minutes, and then you separate the seconds, all you really have are integers. And so I'm going to define my time, my struct of time, as integers: hours, minutes, and seconds. See that? Because when I break my time down, like I said, that's all it really is. Now I hope I'm recording. I should be recording, yes. Okay, good. Alright, so that's all the structure of time is. 3 integers separated by a semicolon, which we'll get to eventually. Don't worry about this, you can just count your header. I'm not even going to get into this part. Now, schedule. This is the one that should do the magic. Within the schedule, alright, let's look at what our schedule has here. Our schedule has a day, right? It has a start time. It has an end time. And remember, we already defined these times as 3 separate integers. And then we have brainstorming or activity, whatever those activities are. So that's our basic schedule, which is pretty much what this is, right? Now I have some other functions in between here. I have my print info. Now, vector of time. Essentially what that is doing, it is creating a vector of this. Okay? Vector of time, vector of start time, end time. I guess in a way you could probably just do an array, but because there's only a limited number of components of it, so you know that it's only going to be 3 parts, not that you need more, but we'll keep it as vectors, only because I've really grown fond of vectors. These are some variables that I'm going to use later on. Alright, so schedule, Now, you don't see the end of this, but remember in the last one I'm saying always open and close your brackets properly. Because if you don't, you're screwed. And then you'll spend several hours trying to figure out where you missed a bracket. Happened to me before. Alright. Schedule data. So we know this. This is what we're going to build our schedule to display. And then we're going to ask, whenever we call a schedule, whenever we build a schedule, we're going to ask for these parameters. Okay? And then you're going to pass those parameters, and then you're going to make them equal to these guys here. Right? So this that is equal to this guy. So this is equal to this. This is equal to this. See that? Boom, 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 boom. Etc. etc. The only ones you want to be careful with is the vector. So see, this is a vector of time. Vector of time, and where do I get time from? I get time from here. Creating a vector of these guys. Okay. That. Don't worry about the header. You could just count this as a regular, just count start time, end time, and you can just use your set width and whatever. So don't worry about this. So instead of header text here, you could just count, what's the first one? This is day, I think. Right? And it'll be the same thing. So don't worry about, don't focus on the header. Just count your header however you want it. Print info. This is important. Now, remember, we have our time coming in as integer. But we want to mix the integer with the other characters so that it becomes a string, right? Here, this set, that's what this is going to do, right? That, I think you have to include strings. This might be part of include strings, so you don't really have to worry too much about it. Excuse me. Whoa, no, that's not Corona, don't worry. At least I hope not. I think I might have just choked on my saliva. And that is a shot. Deals with the Corona. Alright. So, just to extend this so you see the entire code. Essentially what this line is doing is that it is padding a 0 here. Let me just run this program so you see it. If I say display everything, right? So you see here, I have 0, 9, 43, 0, 0, 0, 9, 0, 9. Apparently I entered a lot. I had a lot of 9 o'clock appointments. 0, 7, 0, 6, 0, 8. See, 0, 1. Because if I don't pad this 0 here, it's just going to look weird. It's not going to look consistent. I'm going to end up with just like 1, right? So this would end up being just 8, 56, 1, right? I don't want that. I want it to look uniform. I want it to look nicely on my program. So what I'm doing here is that I'm filling the front part of the number with a 0. Fill that. Then I'm going to take the hour from the start time, right? Combining with my semicolon. So I'm building my string of time, basically. I'm building my string of start time so I can use it. Now, this is this is probably something you might hopefully find useful if you haven't figured out how to deal with the duration. So let's look at what a time is. What time consists of. Time consists of an hour. It consists of minutes. Well, hours, not just an hour, but more than 1 hour sometimes. So it consists of hours, it consists of minutes, and then it consists of seconds. Now, how many, oh come on. I don't want to have to do that. Alright, let's use this one. Okay. This is from my last video. We want to calculate time from one to the next, right? We want to calculate from start time to end time. Now, the start time in this case is, let's look at this one. Let's look at this activity here. Let's look at this. So my start time is 9:30 and my end time is 11:15. How do I know how many hours, minutes, and seconds lapsed between the start and the end? What's our minimum unit of time? In this case, our minimum unit of time is the second. So, what I'm suggesting is, let's see how many seconds are there from 9, or how many seconds are in the time 9:30. Now let's see. I have 9 hours, which consists of 60 minutes, and then that consists of 60 seconds. I have 30 minutes, which consists of 60 seconds, right? Plus. And then I have plus 0 minutes, which is 0 seconds. 0 seconds, plus 0, because that's 0. But if this is a number at the back, then you'd end up with plus whatever that thing is, that second is. And that'll tell me how much seconds are in that particular time. Think you follow that? So I want to know what my minimum, what my base unit of measurement is. And then I want to convert all my other unit of measurement to that base unit. So This is how I did it. Then I want to calculate my next unit of measurement, which is 11 times 60 minutes makes up an hour, times 60 seconds makes a minute, plus 15, right? 15 minutes times 60, that's going to give me 6, and then plus 0. So how much do we have here? Let's see. Let's pull up a calculator. So I have 9 times 60 times 60. That's that. So that's that. And then I have 30 times 60. That's 1800. And then I have 0. So how much is my total seconds here? So I have total seconds plus 32,400. That's my total seconds. Right? No, that. That's my total seconds. Okay. So here I have 11 times 60 times 60. That's going to give me this. Here I have 15 times 60, that's 900. Here I just have 0. So, how much time is this? So 900 plus 39,600. That's the number of seconds. So you see, from my start to my end, now I have two numbers that I could calculate and see how much seconds passed between those 2 points of time, right? So the time lapse is going to be 34,200. Actually, it's going to be 40,500 minus this, which is going to give me 6,300 seconds. Okay, 6,300 seconds. Now, how many hours is that? How many minutes is that? And how many seconds is that? Alright, so that's what we need to find out now. How do we go about doing that? So, let's go back to our code. So I need to code all of this, right? I need to code all of this that I just did. So that's what this is doing here. Here, this is my total start time, right? That's going to give me this. This is going to give me my total end time, right? That should give me this. And then my lapse time, which is this comes from this piece of code. Excuse me. Okay. Now, I have to figure out how many hours, how many minutes, and how many seconds are in 6,300. So, how do I go about doing that? Excuse me. Hours. How many hours are in 6,300? So, I have to divide 6,300 divided by 60 times 60. 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour, right? That's going to give me a decimal divided by 60 times 60. Notice the bracket, because if you don't put the bracket, you're screwed, right? Bonmas or bondas. Wait, are you screwed in this case? I don't think so. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. I think you are, though. I think you are. So this is 1 hour and 75. 1.75. 1.75. How many hours is that? Essentially, it's 1 hour, right? 1 hour and 0.75 of an hour, which is not the same as 75 minutes, because 75 minutes is more than an hour. 60 minutes makes an hour, right? So my hour is 1. Why 1? Because I'm going to take the minimum in discrete math, you learn about floor and ceiling functions. I think you can find some floor and ceiling functions in Excel also, but we're not using Excel, we're using, but I just want to show you how this works. We're using C++. And C++ has the exact same thing. I mean, Excel is probably built, I don't know if it's built on C++. I don't know what it's built on, but the functions are pretty much the same. So floor, right? Floor, god damn it. Floor, 1.75. Oh, I'm supposed to put significance. What is this? Let's put 0. 1. Okay. Floor 1. So we'll use our floor function. That's this guy right here. Okay? That's what this is going to return. This is going to return 1 hour. Okay? So that piece of code is going to return this. But what about the remainder of it? How do I go about finding the remainder of it? Well, it's simple. In C++, we use the percentage sign. See here? We find what the remainder of this is. Okay? We find what the remainder of this guy is, and then we floor that. So the remainder is 0.75. 0.75, right? So 0.75 divided by 60. How much is that going to give us? So that's going to give us 0.75 divided by 60. Right? Nope. No. It's not 0.75. 0.75 of an hour. That can't be right. Remainder of this. Minutes divided by 60. What is this amount? How much is this giving me? It should be 0.75 or 75. Where am I here? Where am I here? Is it point? It can't be 0.75 divided by 60. 75 divided by 60. That should give me, no, that's hours. God damn it. I know what I'm trying to say, but apparently I can't figure it out right now. Minutes, floor, time lapse, you get the difference, percentage, what the remainder is after you do this, divided by 60 times 60. 60 times 60. I need to count this somehow. Ooh, actually, you know what? I could count it. Count. Lapse. Because I want to see what this is. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see what number is giving me. Okay, lapse minutes. Print info. Why didn't it print? Come on, man. You're embarrassing me. Come on. Ah, here we go. That's the number. That's the number I'm looking for. 5 and that and that and that. Oh, it's there. It's there. It's there. So here it's 45. Here it's 45. 45 remaining. So how did they get 45 again? 0.75. So it'll be 0.75 times 60. That should give me 45. There we go. There we go. Okay. 0.75 times, that should give me this. Okay. I guess there are multiple ways of doing this. Maybe. My way was to find what the difference is, find the remainder, and then divide it by 60. So to do that, I use this function here. Actually, let's see what this is. Let's see what this is going to give me. This is why I like to count stuff. Because when I count it, I can figure out what the heck is in there. Count and then run. Okay. So here we have 2700. See, that's the number that's in there. So 2700 remaining, which is 0.75 times 60 times 60, 63 is 6300 divided by that. So 0.75 times 60 times 60. That's no, wait, 2700. That is what is remaining. Okay, that's the number of seconds that remain after you've divided. Okay, there we go. So here, 0.75. So I need to know the number of seconds that remain after I've divided this guy right here. And how do I do that? It is 6300. It's basically this guy right here. Percentage 60. How much remains? So this is 6300. Excuse me. Percentage that, and that is equal to 25. And that is equal to 2700. Okay. So after I divide the total number of seconds, I get 1 hour. I floor that, meaning I take the lower round down. Floor that, I get that. And then I want to know how much seconds is remaining out of the 6300. Basically what that is 60 times 60. So how much remains? So it's 60 times 60, that's 3600. That's 1 hour. So it's 6300 minus 3600, and that is equal to 6300. That's my 2700. Okay, so now I'm still dealing in seconds. Okay, good. Alright, so that's what this piece of code. So essentially this is what I want to know. How much seconds is remaining? And in order to do that, I'll use this code here. Then I'll divide it by 60, because 60 minutes makes an hour, and that should give me the total number of minutes remaining. So 2700 divided by 60, that should give me 45. And I don't have anything, so here I have to check to see how much. Here I'm repeating that same step to see how much seconds remain, and whatever number of seconds remain, that's going to be my whatchamacallit. And that's how I calculate the duration. So first of all, take everything to seconds, right? Take everything to seconds, subtract, find what the difference is, that's the total number of seconds that lapsed, then find the difference, find the floor, use the floor, find how many hours. It'll be 1.5, 1.75. It'll be a number and a decimal, right? Find that, then find the number of minutes that remain. So you take the minimum of that, that's going to be your hours. Then you take the find the number of minutes that remain. That's going to help you with the that's going to deal with the minutes, and then whatever is remaining, that's going to be your seconds. And then I can count my entire schedule. Now this is, again, just however you feel comfortable doing it. I like to see my my stuff align nicely, so I'm using set width to control how my stuff is displayed. So that's this part. The duration, I hope you understand the duration. Alright, so let's see here. That's my hour, 1 hour and 45 minutes. That's this guy right here. if you were to calculate the time between any of these things, you should come up to, you should come up to the right calculation. In fact, let's look at the professor's program for the first couple. Sample, I think is in here. No, that's mine. Schedules. Let's look at the first couple and see what the duration is. Should be the same. So, I mean, you see, I don't know, maybe it's screen resolution, but you see, I mean, I don't like how it aligns. Alright. You see, this is what happens when you don't do the padding. You see, it's 9, 30, 0, 0. You don't have the 0, 0, you just have 1, 0. So that doesn't work very nicely for me. Alright. 1, 45, that's good. 2, 35, that's good. 1 hour and 40 minutes, that's good. 8 hours and 45 minutes, that's good. And then this one here, this is the ones with the second. Where's the one? There's one with the second. Jim, where's Jim? Here we go. Jim. It is 2 hours, 29 minutes, and 30 seconds. So for Jim here, it's 2 hours, 39 minutes, and wait a minute. Oh, I was wondering where the heck is the 30 seconds. There we go. It's hiding here. Alright, so Jim, 2 hours, 29 minutes, and 30 seconds. I was like, what the heck? That doesn't seem right. Okay, so now we know how to calculate duration. We can, we have our data structure, we pretty much have our schedule file set up. Now we can start implementing. Remember from the previous video, we looked at welcome. We looked at declaring these variables. Now, I declare them above main. I declare all of them above main. Even some of these variables, I declare a lot of them above main, only because I want to use them throughout the entire main.cpp. If I declared any of them inside of this main function here, then I can't use it outside of main. So I'm going to declare them outside of main at the top so that I could use them in other parts of my function. However you choose, I guess, however you choose to implement this, it's totally up to you. For me, this is the best way that well, I actually improved it a little bit because I don't need these two functions anymore. I'm just going to use this one. But going back to my previous video where we did these functions and then we said, okay, we're going to call them and how we go about calling them and so on and so on. I hope you have an appreciation for separating out things that you might want to use over and over again and then call them. Alright, so this is only because I'm using that header crop. I really don't want the header crop, but I'm going to keep that. Vector of schedules, that's creating a vector of these things. I'm creating a vector of these things. Right? So within that, I'll have a vector of time. Okay, so I have that. I have a vector of time, in which case it's vector of time, start time and end time, which is these guys here. I'm going to create that vector so that I could take that vector of time and pass it into my schedule eventually. Okay? Vector of string. This is what I want to add. Don't even worry with the add. I mean, if you want to implement the add, it's totally up to you. There are easy ways how you can do it. But again, for me, I'd rather be safe than letting the user do whatever they want to do. Okay. Remember our call, remember our welcome message. That's gonna come down from, that's coming from this guy right here. It's somewhere below here. Where's our welcome message? Where's our welcome message? I have my welcome message somewhere. Where is it? Here we go. Welcome. So whenever I call that function, this is what's gonna happen. Okay. Welcome. And it goes in order, right? Remember that. Remember our while loop. So let me show you this. Now, do you see from where in terms of lines, right? This is what I was saying before. You have to make sure that you control these brackets. Okay? Do you see? I'm moving from line 52 to line 207. Everything within that period, within those lines, is in this while loop. Okay? So if anything is outside of that bracket, you're screwed. So that's what I mean when I say when you open a curly bracket, just hit enter a couple of times and work within that bracket. Okay, so we did this, and then we did that in the previous video. We did this in the previous video. Here we did the same thing. This is where I'm checking to see whether if these numbers are within my parameters. If not, I'm going to return invalid. So here, if it is less than 1, or if it is more than 5, or not equal to x, uppercase, lowercase x, here, let me show you what happens. And that's what this line is doing. So if I do E, sorry, it seems like you entered an invalid option. Please try again. 4, I can then add. But I want to cancel this. I don't want to add anything right now. I wanted to show you that that's where you check and you validate. Basically, if you come back to our algorithm, right, you do the welcome, you load the CSV, and then you choose task. And the validate entry in our algorithm is essentially controlled by this if function, right? So if it is not, it's actually controlled by these two if functions. So if it is good, then you can continue. Then if not, then you say it's not a valid entry. Okay, I actually loaded my CSV file all the way here. Doesn't matter. Okay, so now I'm going to switch case. This we talked about in the last one, right? Print all. I'm just going to print all here, right? In fact, you know what? I should do load CSV reader. I should show you that. Where's load CSV reader? I should show you load CSV reader. This one is, I mean, I might have done it a little too complicated, but I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna think. So here, I'm gonna pull the information from the file. I'm gonna clear anything that's already in the vector. I want this row count only because you don't need it. You don't need this unless you're doing the add and then you're gonna do like all those other weird stuff. And with the add, you don't need this. So don't worry about that for now. This is my for loop. I'm going to start from the second row because, as you would notice from this, the first row has this guy, and then it doesn't follow the same format as this. So I'm going to start from the second row. I'm going to take, this is saying get the first cell as a string. So I'm getting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get that as a string. I'm going to get the last column. Sorry, I said wrong. But I'm going to get the last column as everything in the last column or in that cell as a string also. Now, here. This is where I create my vector of time from a number of integers. So remember I said in the CSV file you have that, that, CSV cell start, this. The CSV cell start comes from start time, vector of integers. Okay, it's a vector of integers for those two. CSV start time, that. I know this is getting very boring. It is getting very boring for me too. Create a vector of integers for my start time, and I'm using this as my delimiter. Row number, that's depending on which row I am. My column is 2, and my delimiter. Okay, so that'll give me my vector of start time, end time, and then I'm just going to push back each of these. Then I'm going to clear my start time, clear my end time, and repeat that process for each of the vectors. Okay, so that. No, I don't need that. I don't need that. Okay, so that will basically create my vector so that I could print everything. I can, from what I've shown you so far, right? You can basically do print all, because you're taking the information from the vector, you're loading it up, and then you're printing everything, and then after you're done, you're just going to call the welcome back again, and then break. So I don't continue to the rest of cases. Now, print selection. Here. I want to print either the day or the activity, right? So that's this guy. So I'm going to use the same function, the same print selection function. It's just I'm going to tell it, well, okay, that's an activity and that's the day. Okay, so now I come back to my function. Let's see, CSV print selection. That's this guy. See how many lines of code this thing is? Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I probably overdid it only because of the add new schedule. So yours might not be as much as this. So I'm taking these two parameters and I'm passing them into this function. So if it's an activity, right, I'm gonna loop through the schedule, okay, and the to lower, that comes from the string util file. Include it the same way you included the CSV reader file. You can see the other video, the video I did before, on how you can include those files in your project. You also have to do the include CSV up at the top. Alright, so that. Here I'm saying, okay, if the activity has that portion of the activity inside, then add, in fact, then you print the vector, right? If the part of the activity matches, that is, if you do, let's say I did the activity, let's say a tree. If I did, I have a couple of them that has this inside. If that entry that I made here, if that is found in the activity, then it will print it. And how does that happen? This is how it happens. It checks to see if that is in there, and then it's going to print. Okay? I'm using this to see whether if there is none, if there's any, or if there's, if there's nothing found in that name. So here, that's just a little trick. And let's say I did tree, and then I did this. No activity found. Alright. And same thing for the day. You do whatever's in the day. Check to see, for each one of them you check to see whether if it's there. And then you print it. Okay? So that's your tree basic. I think that's your tree functions that you really need in terms of building this program. If you really want to do the add, the validation and all of that, if you want, then you can continue watching. If not, I think whatever you've seen so far should allow you to build the program. So here, let's say I want to add a new schedule. I'm saying if you want to add, so my option is 4. So here, my option is 4. So case 4, I entered 4 just now, right? I'm going to clear this only because I want to use it. I want to use, that's an int for whatever day I choose. Now, if I don't have this, what happens is if someone enters G or Friday or Monday or something, is going to run an infinite loop. So if I do 10, seems like you didn't enter a valid entry, right? Those are some validation checks. That's what this is doing here. If that break, oh wait, actually no, that's if it's between there. Okay, if it's equal to 8, that's this guy. If it's equal to 8, if I press 8, it cancels. So I'm going to go back into that. 4. If I press, if I enter, so here I'll choose a day. I'll choose 2. Now the reason I want to ask the user to choose a day is for the same reason I said earlier. I don't want the user to be typing male or female for a day, right? I want to just restrict those options because it's just a finite number of options that you have. In the same way, if you had to choose male or female, I would say press 1 for male, 2 for female, or whatever it is, and restrict the user from having to type male or female, because then they'll type Monday instead. Alright, so here I'm saying, okay, enter the start time. Now, that. So based on whatever the user chooses, so like I just press 2. So it's going to add to the vector that I need to add. I'm just going to add Tuesday. Okay. Now I've seen a mistake here. I actually did a mistake. I actually made a mistake here. These numbers don't match the days. This one is supposed to be Sunday. Okay, so this is supposed to be Sunday. This is supposed to be Monday. This is supposed to be Tuesday. This is Wednesday. Oh man. Alright, that's fine. Thursday. Friday. Saturday. Okay. So now this matches. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I made that mistake. Okay, that's fine. Alright, so enter the start time. So when I chose 2, unfortunately, when I chose 2 just now, it went to Tuesday. Now it's going to be Monday because I fixed that. Alright. Now I'm going to do a while loop. This sin.ignore, right? I'm using this because I want to ignore a space between sin and get line, right? In any case, alright, let's do this. I'm going to push back this, okay. So I'm going to do 12, 15, 20, 30, okay? Enter the end time. I'm going to enter the end time before the 14, 12 to 1, 10. Okay, so here. This is another validation check. If you enter your end time before the start time, then, you know, then something's wrong, right? So it's a validation check within the program. So I'm just going to ask the user to enter their start time again. So they're going to enter their start time as 14:21:10, and then 15:00:00. Enter activity, YouTube demo. YouTube demo. And then it's going to return this. Okay, so how does all of that work? See this here? It is checking to see whether the start time is before the end time or after. If the end time is before, it's just gonna pop those two entries, pop these entries out. Okay? Got that, blah 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 blah, and then it's just gonna continue doing that because it's in a while loop. Unless this criteria is where the out seconds is greater than, it's not gonna end. Okay. And then you do the activity. Now I don't want the user to leave the activity to leave the activity empty. That is, let's say I did 4, I did 2, I did 12, 10, that, and I did, here's another validation check, 12, 14, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then the user enters another 0. Oops, I'm sorry, it doesn't seem like you entered, because I want only 8 characters in here. And then I don't want a blank activity. I don't want that. If you leave a blank activity, it'll crash your CSV file, or CSV reader file. So no blank activity. Okay? Alright. And then after that, if you want to just skip all those validation checks, then you can just come to this part and then just add it. Boom, that's it. This is where you add your whatchamacallit, data to the CSV. This is where you load the CSV, and this is where you basically just count the entry that the user made. Okay, now where are those validation checks? Those validation checks are here, return time. So this is going to tell me whether if it's a start time or an end time, depending on the parameter that I passed here. This is another while loop. Remember again, we talked about this while loop. Gotta like just keep going over until the user does the right thing, or unless I just close the program. That's fine. And to start time, these are just some little instructions. This is going to get my line. So the difference between sin and get line is that if you use sin, when you press the space, it's only going to take the first, the group of characters before the space. I want to be able to take all the characters, even if the user entered a space. Okay. I'm going to take the information from each segment. Excuse me. I'm going to take the information from each segment of the time entered, and here's where it checks to see whether if it's 8 characters long. I'm going to take each one, then I am going to check to see whether they're digits. For example, if the user was to enter something like this, FFUU, well, sorry, they're not digits. You're only supposed to enter numbers here. The reason, and it comes back again to the point that when you are asking the user to enter information, you should really validate that information, because what's going to happen, right, is that you'll end up putting a character in here, right? Let's just say that I put G just to test this, and I run my CSV file. Look at what's going to happen. It's going to build. and I'm gonna press 1. Oh wait, did it actually go? It was supposed to be G. Oh, I didn't change it. I changed it in the wrong one. Hold a second. I realized what happened. Hold a second. I needed to change it to this guy. Here. See, when stuff doesn't work the way it's supposed to work, there's obviously a reason. You just gotta remember why. Here, I need this guy. I want to change this to G. Let's say the user just entered a letter. And I'll show you why you need these validation checks. It'll still compile. It'll still compile. Let me just compile it so you see it compiles. It'll compile. Everything's going to be fine. But when you try to read the file, oh man, you're screwed. Again? Huh. I must have converted it somewhere. I must have fixed that somewhere else. But I do remember that there was one where it crashed because I was entering whatchamacallit. I wasn't entering a number and it crashed my file. In any case, I really want my whatchamacallit. So that's the one where the activity is blank. Okay. So I can't have a blank activity. But you can see why you really need to validate your entries. Whereas if I run the program again with it not being blank, it should be fine. Of course, I don't know why. Well, I must have put something to safeguard against that, or maybe it's in CSV file to safeguard against that part. Okay. I do some validation checks. This here, essentially what this is doing is that it is replacing anything that the user enters. So here, if I press 5, it's going to give me a little help file. So if the user entered 16 point whatever this is going to come back to it's going to change to the colon, the colon, because if it doesn't have the colon, then I'm screwed again. Which CSV file am I in here anyways? I don't remember. Let's say the user entered that instead. Am I in the right CSV file? Probably not. I should be in the right CSV file. Yeah, here we go. Look at that. Weird stuff happening. Okay. I'm just going to put this back to 9. Ah, I was in the right CSV file. Okay, good. Alright. Yes. Stupid long program. This is the check to see whether if the start time is greater than or outside the before or after. And that's entering. But like I said, I mean, I'd rather maintain the integrity of my information that gets added to the file. I don't know. I don't think there's anything else. Apart from adding the information, apart from knowing which functions to use, while loop, if, then, so on and so on. I mean, I don't know that there's anything else that you need, I don't know if there's anything else that I added here that wasn't described. I know I'm getting bored. I'm getting hoarse. I've been doing about 2 hours, 3 hours of video. Alright, let me end this here.